Week 10 of the fantasy football season, and here's a few running backs I have as sleepers this week. The first guy, Ty Chandler of the Minnesota Vikings. So now with Cam Akers out for the season with the torn Achilles, Ty Chandler is going to step into that number 2 role for this Minnesota Viking team, and he's a receiver out of the backfield is Ty Chandler. So Cam Akers, he was getting anywhere from 8 to 12 touches per game, and early in the season, Ty Chandler was definitely a player I was keeping an eye on to see if he would start eating into the workload, and then they made the deal obviously early in the year for Cam Akers. But now with Akers out for the season, I think Ty Chandler could step up and he could make plays and help this Minnesota Viking team. So right now this week, it's not the greatest of matchups versus the New Orleans Saints. I give up the third least amount of fantasy points to running backs on the season. But Chandler's out there in 95% of fantasy league. It happens to Alexander Madison. He could be a top 15, top 20 running back the rest of the season. So right now is a sleeper option or even a running back to stash on your roster. I like Ty Chandler this week as a sleeper. Next guy is Jaleel McLaughlin of the Denver Broncos. So McLaughlin, pretty much the second running back on the depth chart now for this Bronco team. I know they work in Samaje Perine, but McLaughlin more of the passing downs back than Perine this season. And we've seen some flash games for McLaughlin going early in the year, week 4 and week 5 when Javonte Williams was banged up. So the last few weeks, I know the numbers haven't been there. Week 7 versus Green Bay, 5 carries, 45 yards, a catch for 1 yard. And then week 8 versus Kansas City, 4 carries, 33 yards, 2 catches, 6 yards. So McLaughlin, he's an explosive running back. And like I mentioned, this guy's averaging 8-9 yards per carry over the last few games, where he just has to get the ball a little bit more. I know Javonte Williams, he's looked good over the last few weeks, and maybe coming off that ACL injury, he's getting healthier as the weeks go on. So this week, it's definitely a tough matchup at the Buffalo Bills. It could be a game early where they're trailing as this Denver Bronco team and have no choice but to throw the football and get McLaughlin in there for passing downs and obviously third down plays. So right now, Jaleel McLaughlin, in my opinion, is the number 2 back on this team. I know Perine is more in between the tackles type of runner as well than a McLaughlin, but if they're trailing early and often, they're going to have to pass the ball. He'll be in there for a decent snap count, so he's definitely a sleeper this week. In the third and final running back I have as a sleeper is Rico Dotto of the Dallas Cowboys. So right now, we haven't seen much out of Tony Pollard the last 4 or 5 weeks of the season, and Rico Dotto more of a physical running back and more running back that you would see in between the tackles, with Pollard being more of a third down and a speedster type of running back. So Rico Dotto, I know the last few weeks he really hasn't done much and it really hasn't touched the football, but this week versus the New York Giants, it could be a game that gets out of hand early and often. This Cowboy team just running out the clock in the second half because this Giant team, they're depleted, offensive line all banged up, down to their third string quarterback, Tommy DeVito, starting, and Darren Waller is going to be out once again in this one with the hamstring injury. So right now I could see this game where the Cowboys get off to an early start in the second half. They're running out the clock, so in deeper leagues, if you need a running back or just a guy as well that you could stash on your roster as a handcuff to Tony Pollard, Rico Dotto on your roster. I have Rico Dotto as a sleeper this week, so that's a few running backs I have as sleepers for week 10 of the fantasy football season.